Welcome back to another episode of Built and Backed. Joining me today is Natalie Barbu, the founder and CEO of Rella, a VC-backed startup helping social media teams streamline content planning, collaboration, and analytics. With over a decade of experience as a content creator and entrepreneur, Natalie has built a personal brand with a community of more than 380,000 and now focuses on building tools that support creators, marketers, and agencies behind the scenes. She's passionate about simplifying the workflows that power digital content and creating projects that solve real problems for modern teams. Natalie, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
I'm excited to have you here. I would love to start off by having you share with our listeners more about yourself and what you do at Rella.
Yeah, so I'm Natalie, like you mentioned. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Rella. And Rella is a project management tool for social media teams. So we always like to describe it more on the project management end than social media scheduler end, because even though we have a scheduler, we definitely focus more on the project management. Every day to day is different, but everything that I do at Rella stems from my own experience as a creator, as a former agency owner, as someone who's owned a business in the past. We really want to solve all of those like little annoyances and frustrations that the average person working in social media or on a social team faces. And so I do a lot of, customer interviews or speaking to customers, communicating with them through content, and just kind of figuring out what's next for Rella.
I love it. And I'm really curious to hear your background that led you to getting the idea for Rella. I know you mentioned that you previously had an agency and were a business owner. And so I'd love to hear kind of like the roadblocks that you faced in those paths that sparked the creation of Rella moving forward.
When I had an agency, this was around 2019, 2020, and I remember thinking that all of the systems we were using at the agency, which it was a very, very small agency, it was me and one other girl, so it was like freelance kind of, but I just remember all of the systems that we were using were so inefficient. I was toggling between tabs all the time. I didn't have a really great way to communicate with my clients. I felt like everything was kind of through like text message, Google Drive, project management tools, content schedulers, and the organization took way longer than even the thing I was being paid for, which was the consulting, the content creation, the coming up with the calendar, just organizing all of it took longer. And I was like, this shouldn't be taking longer than the actual job I'm, being hired for. There has to be a better solution. And there really wasn't. Like everyone was taping together a bunch of tools and just being okay with it because that's all that there was. And so I was like, oh, okay, like how hard can it be to solve this problem? It was a lot harder than I thought, but I was, and I was like, oh, I can, I have experience in this. I can solve this problem. And so that's really where the idea of Rella came. Originally, though, it was mainly for creators because I had a content creation background. I was doing content creation full time. And so I was thinking, like, oh, let's start with creators and then we can like expand to social media managers. And we kind of tried to do both at first. And it ended up not working the way that we like wanted it to work in the beginning. And like the marketing just wasn't resonating with people and like we were solving too many problems at once. And
Mhm.
so actually last year we completely pivoted and relaunched the product, and we said that we were only going to be for social media teams and businesses and like social media managers. And so that's kind of the product you're interacting with today, but it all stemmed originally from like my own experience as a creator and agency owner.
Yeah. And there are many reasons why I'm so excited to have you on the show, but one of them being that I'm also a marketing agency owner. And so I can 100% relate to what you are sharing here about the roadblocks that teams face. I was just saying to someone the other day that I feel like 50% of my job is actually marketing. The other 50% is like chasing clients and getting what I need. And so, from what you've shared, being able to take your personal experience and build a product that solves the problems that you were facing is huge.
Yeah, it was definitely something that I was like, wait, why doesn't this exist? Because there's no way that everyone is using these systems and like it's working for them. So it was something I really wanted to solve. And you should definitely get on Rella if you're not already.
Yeah, totally. I know I've been checking it out. So that's another reason why I was so looking forward to chatting today. But you also mentioned a really interesting point too, which is I think you mentioned last year you shifted from working with creators as well to now just focusing solely on social media managers and social media teams. And so I would love to hear more about your experience of pivoting your product. I think that's something a lot of founders sometimes are hesitant to do because they're like, is this the right move? Like, is this going to work out for us? Like, how do we know what we're doing? And so, if you would be able to share your experience and almost like what your thought process was like during that time, I'd love to hear it.
Pivoting is super scary. So I mean, I think that it's one of those things that you hear the stories of people pivoting and, great if it works out, but like when you're in that situation of do I pivot or not, it's scary because the question is like, do I completely get rid of what we've been working on for years and hope that this new thing works, or should I like keep working on what we've been doing? So that was like the
Mhm.
situation we were in, where it was like a do or die situation, because we were not growing, we were not making a lot of money with the first product, we were dying a slow death essentially. So it was one of those things where it was like, okay, we either continue on this path and we eventually close the business, or we try to pivot and to, make this work one last time. And
Yeah.
instead of like adding a new feature or fixing something, like just completely getting rid of the first product and restarting from scratch. And hopefully that works. And like it was one of those situations that we were in. We were really like up against a wall. And so we decided to pivot and completely redo the product. And it thankfully it worked. But I think when you're in a situation where you're questioning, do I need to pivot or not? Typically something's not working. And I do
Yeah.
think that it's better to figure it out earlier than later. So if you are in a situation where the only thing stopping you from pivoting is like, but I've spent so much time on this, you should pivot because time does not mean success. Like you can work on something for 10 years. It does not make it any more successful than if you just started something and it like took off in the first 6 months. So if that's the only thing stopping you and you know something's not working, I recommend kind of just like taking that leap of faith and going for it.
Yes, I love that. And especially too, to your point about time. I mean, someone, like you said, might be like, well, I spent years building this. Well, if you don't pivot, then you're just going to spend even more years like working on building
Exactly.
it in a product that's not the right fit for your audience. So I love that idea of just kind of like thinking about it as almost like an opportunity cost. Like if you
Hmm.
don't just like throw away what you've been working on and try something new, then you could be missing out on an even better ideation or version in the future.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean it's so true because for us, we knew the other option was going to be just like continuing down this road and then dying eventually, like unless something miraculous happened, but we were already working on it for so long and it wasn't working. So for us it was like, okay, yeah, we have to go all in and pivot. And we actually were in the middle of trying to raise money. So we were at the point where we had raised a pre-seed round and again we weren't growing, we were not making a lot of money, so like our only option to survive was like raise another round. But when you're not growing and you're not making money and no one's going to invest in you, so we
Yeah.
had to make that decision also of okay, we're going to stop focusing on raising, like it's not going to happen, we're not going to raise this next round, and we need to focus on actually building like a sustainable company. And like that's how we made that pivot, and now we are actually growing or profitable and we don't need to raise money, which has been really great.
Oh yeah, just being able to like have the runway to kind of get you through and then also just the revenue coming in from your users and people who are leveraging the platform.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I'd love to hear more about what Rella offers now that it's Rella 2.0. Let's hear more about the services and how it supports social media managers and social media teams.
Yeah, so I always say that, like I said, we're project management for social teams, but I think we are by far the easiest way to collaborate with your clients and your team. Because the old process that a lot of people might be using is they use a project management tool internally. Everything is kind of in there, like they can build out the calendar there. Some people still use spreadsheets for like a content calendar, so you might have a spreadsheet that you're using for that. Content lives in a Google Drive folder separate from the, actual project manager. A lot of times you're sharing your content with either with your clients or your boss or whoever it might be, via one of those tools. But a lot of times you either have to pay for them to be added as a team member or like for a seat, or they can still like see everything internally that you and your team are discussing. They can, they don't have like the approval flow. They can maybe leave comments, but it's not as like it's not made for social media teams, and like we work a certain way. And then you use a content scheduler to auto post, or you're posting manually, which takes so much time. So that's kind of the flow that a lot of people are using. Where Rella comes in is you can plan, ideate, do all the project management within Rella, add your team members, communicate with them. But then when it comes down to like getting the content, you can store all your content in Rella in the media tab, or obviously to the actual post. And then when you're sharing it with clients, it's just a single link. They can look through the content, approve it, leave comments. You can communicate back with them. You don't have to pay for them as a seat. And then they're not seeing anything internal. So they're not seeing the communication between you and your team or, anything like that, which is great. And then you can auto post directly from Rella. So you can auto post, I mean, all of Rella's content, like we upload to Shorts, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and we do all of that through Rella. We just upload it once and then, auto post it across all platforms, which has been such a time saver.
Yeah. And so a question I have for you, because it sounds like you don't offer LinkedIn and X, is that right?
No, we do.
Oh, you do? Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
So you have
yeah.
all the platforms.
Yeah, we don't have Snapchat.
Snapchat.
I know like some people use Snapchat or we don't have Blue Sky, but those are pretty
I
much
feel
the
like
only
most
ones.
don't. So anyway, for social media schedules at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great that you have all those different platforms that you can support. And so I'd love to hear, like, since you've been able to like make such a successful pivot and have had the positive outcomes that have come from it, I'd love to hear like what that's been like since. Like if you can share any success stories or just really some tangible like social proof of what you've been able to build with your awesome platform.
Yeah, I mean, we serve thousands of agencies and social media managers. So, I mean, having those people, obviously be running their entire business on Rella is great. And that's something that we always say, like, we are very customer obsessed. So I always say to my team, like these people that are using us, they are relying on us to run their business. If you have a social media agency, the tool that you are using is so crucial and the system that you're using. So, like, we need to not take that lightly. And then we're very customer obsessed where we are obsessed with listening to feedback. Like we have a whole, it's called Canny. It's like a tool that we use to collect feedback so people can vote on feedback. They can submit feature requests. They can comment on, like the features that they want. And then they can see our roadmap. So they can see what we're working on. If you voted on a feature and it's going to be implemented into the product, you'll get notified. Like, oh, this is on our roadmap now, or when it's released, we notify everyone that's like interacted with that feature request. So that is where we pull like our roadmap and our vision and everything like that, which has been so great. We're really community oriented. We have like a Facebook group. People are posting about us on social media all the time. So just like the agencies and managers that rely on us, the community that we've built, how much feedback we're given, like I I don't see other tools in the space similar like that have that level of customer obsession, which I think sets us apart. And is also like great social proof that, so many people come from referrals and word of mouth and everything like that. We have like millions of content that's been auto posted since we've relaunched. So it's been really cool to see because trust me, when we were struggling and like not growing, I never thought that we would get to the point that we are today.
Oh, I love that. So it must be like looking back now, like a year or so previously, like it must be such like a heartwarming just feeling for you. Like being, as you mentioned, you had no idea that you'd be where you are today, and knowing that the difficult decisions that you had to make and the hard choices like all led you to this point. And as cliche as it sounds, like everything really happens for a reason. And so it's so evident that you made such a good choice in what you did and being able to switch gears.
Yeah, no, it was the best decision. We always talk about it as a team, like, why didn't we do it sooner? But it all worked out, so it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to mention the point that you brought up about being customer obsessed and really, really focused on customer feedback, which I think is so important. And I love what you shared about the transparency piece that you have, where you can have let people share features that they'd like to have. You should give them an insight into what's being released in the future so they know what's coming, and you really work with them closely, which I think is one of the most important things you can do to retain customers and retain users, as I'm sure you've seen and what you've done with that. And so I'd love to ask for your advice for other founders who maybe don't prioritize customer relationships or customer experience as much as they should, and what you'd suggest they do in order to really make sure that they provide a really awesome experience to the people that they're working with.
I mean, one of the biggest pieces of feedback or compliments that we get is like that we're quick to answer our customer service support. We're always launching features that people are, requesting. We're really listening to our customers. And I always look at other companies that might not do that as much. And I'm like, it's such an easy win. Like, it is so easy to listen to your customers and to tell them like, hey, we're listening, we're working on this. And then getting little wins, like if there's like slight annoyances in the product, like little things, it's not that complicated to fix. And then your
Mhm.
customers actually know that you're listening to them. Um, I think the issue is a lot of companies are really big, and so there's a lot of layers of approval, and not everything can be done as quickly. We have an advantage. We're a team of four. the approval process is the four of us. Like it is,
Yeah.
if something needs to get done, it can get done really quickly. And I always want to stay small. Like obviously we're going to have to expand outside of four people, but I never want to get to a point where we're hiring because headcount equals success, because I actually don't believe in that. I think that you can do a lot with a really small team. And so for us, like we always want to be as close to the customer as possible. The more you grow, the obviously the harder it is to be close to them because there's too many people. So we always want to have someone like in-house that's communicating to our customers. We don't want to offshore that. Like I know a lot of people will, maybe hire a third party to do their customer support, which is fine. Like I'm not saying that that's bad. Like when you get to a certain level, I mean, we're not as big as, our competitors, and we get overwhelmed with the amount of emails that we get and everything like that. So like I understand that it's easier to outsource it, but like I also see the biggest advantage of the people within the team actually talking to the customers and not outsourcing that, because if
Mhm.
you don't talk to your customers, I don't really know like how you know what they want and what their sentiment is. Like data can tell you a lot, sure. Like you're getting new trials, you're getting signups, whatever. But like actually talking to them is where we get all of our insight. So I just recommend, no matter how big your team is, having people close to the product, inside the team, not outsourced, actually communicating to your customers and listening to them.
100%. Yeah, it's like the bigger you get, the more removed you are from the
Hmm.
day to day, which, like you shared, can be really hard to actually know and understand what the people who are using the platform or product are looking for. And so, one question that I have as a follow up to that is, how do you manage negative feedback or feedback that you didn't necessarily want to hear? Because I think when you love your product so much and you so believe in it, of course it's easy to get disappointed when someone doesn't have that same experience, but it also is important to hear that negative feedback. So how do you like work through that without getting discouraged or anything else, having those hard feelings?
Yeah, we've really had to understand that feedback is not personal.
Mm-hmm.
And like if someone, I always say this, but like if someone is giving you feedback, there are hundreds of people that felt that exact same thing, but just like didn't share it with you, because I'm someone, even as a founder, which I know how critical feedback is and how like important it is. I never give feedback to like the tools I'm using. Like I'm never emailing them being like, can you fix this? It's just unless it's like completely something that like I can't get past and I like need it to get fixed. Usually I will like stop using the product. I'll be frustrated. I'll like kind of like sulk on my own instead of actually telling the company like, hey, we need you need feedback on this.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that do give us feedback, I'm always so appreciative because I'm like, oh, thank you, because other people are feeling this way and they're just not telling us. Um,
Yeah.
we've reframed it that way, and also if someone is giving you feedback, that means that they genuinely care about your product. Like there are of course going to be some people that are just like nasty and want to like be mean and whatever. I don't really care about those people because they're probably doing that to every company that they use, Like it's like something that's like
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But the people that are actually like, this is frustrating me. This is not working, or why is this the flow of whatever, whatever the feedback is. It's like, oh, okay, thanks for letting us know because you obviously care enough about Rella to tell us instead of just like churning and not telling us what we did wrong.
Yeah.
So we really reframed it as like a positive thing. And 99% of people are very kind when they leave feedback. Like, of course, they might be frustrated or anything, but like that. But like, we don't usually have people that are just like really mean and mean-spirited for no reason. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's been helpful.
Oh yeah, and you framed it perfectly. Like people are sharing that feedback because they care, whether it's
Mhm.
positive feedback or negative feedback. And to your point, being able to take that feedback means that they want to stay with you before trying to move on to your competitor. So I think it's almost like giving you a second chance ultimately. And so
Yeah.
I love what you shared about just like switching your mindset around that and looking at it from more of like a positive view or a way that you can keep growing and keep progressing.
Yeah, exactly. So we really try not to look at it negatively. And honestly, if we see a lot of the same feedback, it impacts us not in like a we're upset that this person's leaving us feedback as like, oh my God, why can't we like we need to get on this immediately. Like this needs to be fixed. It really pushes us. So feedback is always good. If anyone's listening to this and is like, oh, I never leave feedback, which I need to take my own advice, but feedback is always good for the company.
So true. And I know you mentioned that you do have investors, and so I'd love to hear. how you knew that working with an investor was the right choice compared to bootstrapping. And then also when you made that choice, like if you got to a certain point where you kind of needed those funds, would love to hear more about your journey with that.
Yeah, so we raised actually pre-revenue. So we raised in 2022 when we had first launched the product, or yeah, 2022. We had first launched the product. We were kind of like in beta mode and we didn't have any revenue, but we had the idea, we had some traction for people signing up for free. And we, had like a vision for where this could go. So we raised from traditional VCs. And the reason why we did that was because we really had like no money to pay ourselves, to pay the team that we had, we marketing, like we were super, super lean. And we had like no money coming in. Like I was getting paid from social media still, which was really great. And then my co-founders, though, they had just graduated college. Like they were, living off of like ramen noodles, like that type of life. Like they
Yeah.
were working like side jobs. So it was one of those things where we just needed the funds to get it off the ground.
Mhm.
Looking back on it, we should have been charging people up front. Like we were a free tool for a really long time. And I think that was probably our like biggest mistake. Because being like when you're a free tool, you have no idea the willingness to pay. You have no idea if people really like you or not. I do not recommend anyone to be free. Like even if you're like, oh, I'll charge them later. Like it's so hard to get them to convert, and you're really looking at vanity metrics. Like it's just like I that was like our biggest mistake, but we were in the world of like, oh, well, we can just raise money and like then, continue to get people for free and then charge them later down the road. So I really don't recommend that, but we needed to raise in order to scale. So I don't regret raising. Like it definitely was much needed, but I regret thinking that we didn't need to charge people at first because we had raised money.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I feel like that's something that any founder who is building a product struggles with. Like, should I have a free tier just to get people on the platform and using it and then they convert, or should I just have paid right off the bat? And you brought up a really good point that it's like ultimately you may get a lot of free signups, but it is a vanity metric as you shared because not everyone's going to convert to those being a paid user. So I'm really glad that you shared that because I think that's a really good tip for anyone who is considering that route as they figure out their I guess membership tiers or account tiers, whatever it is they might be doing.
Yeah, like if you're providing value, you should be charging. I just think
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't have to be that expensive. Give a free trial, let people test it, but I would never do a free plan again. Like, I mean, never say never. Maybe we'll do a free tier eventually, but like I mean, at first we were completely free. We didn't even have a paid tier. So that I would absolutely never do. But even like a free plan, I just feel like if it's if I'm providing value, even if it's $5 a month, like you should be charging for it. And when people pay for something, they're forced to use it because they don't want
Mm-hmm.
to be paying for something they're not using. So you'll hear so much more feedback. You'll learn so much more about how people are using your product. You'll learn if you're actually providing value because if you're not providing value, people will not pay. So it's like I just would never do something for free again. Like I just free trial, absolutely. But yeah, we were just so scared of like losing people. But then it's like, okay, but like they're not giving us any value anyways. It's just like those vanity metrics of saying that you have X amount of users using your product.
Yes, totally. Yeah. And to your point, if you're providing value and even the slightest, then you totally should be charging. And so you brought up a good point too about having a free trial to give potential users the opportunity to test out your product before purchasing it and paying for it. But have you found any other ways that have worked well for you to help build that credibility or trust with a potential user before they kind of commit to paying for it, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so we offer everyone a 14-day free trial. And then we also do demos. So if you are interested in signing up for a demo, you will meet with Natasha or me. I'll take some demos sometimes. And we'll give you a rundown of the product. You're able to ask our team questions directly. You're able to see how you can interact with the product and learn more about it. We're just releasing University of Rella, which is like a bunch of tutorials and like modules with how to use every aspect of the software so that you can like see how people are using it. We have, we do webinars where we do like community groups. So like if you have like a social media group, like maybe you're like a manager that has like a community of social media managers that follow you. We do workshops at those things. So like we are really trying to get in front of people as much as possible, like showing how to actually use the product because
Mhm.
I've seen some other competitors and stuff use, host post ads and it's more like about vibes or like funny or humor and like don't get me wrong, that's fine for like clicks and everything like that, but like in all of our content, even if it's funny, even if it's like trending sound, whatever, we like try to show you the product. Like we want
Yeah.
you to see like this product is so good, like you need to see how to use it. So we really try to get in front of people with the product itself, not just
Mhm.
like brand awareness, I guess.
Oh yeah, those are great points. And I feel like people who use products or honestly even services, I feel like the reason, like speaking from my own experience, the reason why they struggle to leave what they're currently using to go somewhere else is because they're feeling overwhelmed by the whole idea of like completely leaving a platform and then having to get totally integrated onto something new. And so I'm curious to hear if Rella offers support in that sense of helping people honestly like onboard or just help them like make that integration process quicker and less daunting for them.
Yeah, we with our demos, we show a lot about like how to make it a quicker process. We don't have
Mm,
anything that's like, okay, if you're using Notion, import everything into Rella. So there's not like a direct integration or anything like that. But a lot of people start fresh every month. Like they'll like start a new monthly content calendar, or they'll start
mhm,
slowly. Like if they get a new client, they'll like test the new client on Rella before moving their entire team on Rella. So a lot of people will we have a ton of people that are like, I'm just going to start with one seat. I'm going to test it out for our agency, like our agency's Instagram or accounts. And then, like, if we like it, then we'll move our clients over. So, usually a new month is like a new opportunity for us to get people. And then, especially like the new year when people are coming up with new systems and stuff. But we haven't felt that challenge as much as we thought we would. Like, we thought we were going to face it a lot more. And it actually hasn't been as big of a challenge than we thought.
yeah, and that's a good point too, especially since as you shared, people usually do like monthly planning. So even just dipping your toes in the water and
Right.
testing it out before going full force, I think is huge and helps really relieve the stress or overwhelm they might feel like moving everyone over all at once, which is a little bit time consuming.
Yeah, and we don't charge per social space. So like if you are using a content scheduler that charges you per client, like per accounts, we don't charge per social space. So we charge for per seat. So like you can just add
Mm.
one team member at first. You and your team can kind of play around with Rella and then like add everyone else later.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's awesome. And one thing I'd love to hear, because as of the time of this recording, it's September 2025. I'd love to hear what's on the docket for Rella for the remainder of the year and even 2026. Some exciting things you can share.
Yeah, so we're working on a lot of improvements. So just we're this past month we haven't really released any new features. We have completely been revamping our like back end side of things to just account for like bigger teams, more enterprise clients, quicker, less just like little glitches, like
Mhm.
less like little annoyances. So we've been really focusing on like streamlining all of that and like focusing on that. We just launched Ella AI, which is like such a game changer when it comes to content and like it's like I personally think it's like the best AI for social media out there because of all the capabilities it does. It understands your brand voice, it knows your analytics, so it knows actually what performs well. You can add like a persona to it. So we've just been doing a lot of improvements with Ella as well. We always say it's like a AI content assistant, so
Mhm.
you guys should definitely check it out. But yeah, that's one thing that we're focusing a lot on improvements with Ella. We're working on more project management features. So a lot of people come to us and they're like, I completely want to replace like Notion with you guys, like even like internally for our team, like not just even social media management stuff, but like internal team planning. So we're
Mhm.
adding more project management features like individual notes, individual tasks, dashboards, that aren't related to like a piece of content. So yeah, big improvements and little improvements, and then more like project management capabilities, I would say.
Oh, that's so exciting. So many good things to look forward to with that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And you can always see what we're working on the canny that we use, which is like in the app you can find you can hit like request features and it'll take you to it.
Oh, perfect. And a question that I'd love to ask you geared towards founders specifically. I know you mentioned that one of the things you absolutely wish you did differently was not having a totally free product. In addition to that, what's something that you've learned as a founder that you think would be really helpful for other founders to know as they go through their startup journey?
Yeah, well, especially in the beginning, like I mean, honestly, for the first few years even, but like especially the beginning, you need to really narrow down who you're targeting. That was, I would say, pricing and this were our two biggest mistakes that like killed us like the first time around. Um, and what I mean by that is like when we first started, we were like, oh, we're for creators, but we're also for social media managers and talent managers and podcasters and this like we added like every demographic under the sun could use Rella 1.0. That made it incredibly confusing because people were like, I don't know if I can use this because I saw that this was for podcasters and I'm not a podcaster. And I'm like, oh no, podcasters can use it, but so can you. And like it was
Yeah.
just very confusing. And then also you when you build for everyone, you build for no one. Like that famous
Hmm.
quote that everyone says is like so true because when you are trying to build for everyone, you're not great at anything. You're just like surface level at everything. And like in order to be successful, there's already so much competition. You need to be 10 times better at least like one thing than your competitors. Like there should be
Yeah.
something that you go really deep on and you can't do that when you're trying to reach a million people. So that's why for us, we now say like we are for social media teams. Like if you are a manager, you manage social media accounts, like that's who we're for. Of
Hmm.
course, other people can use us if they find, like creators can use us, but like we don't mention creators in our marketing, and that's like very intentional because we
Yeah.
want to really target and like be a great product for social media managers. So whether you're in-house, you're at an agency, whatever it is, like if you are running social media accounts, like Rella is for you. So that's like what we've really tried. And it's like the biggest advice I give for founders is like, please narrow down your focus.
Exactly. I think like especially when founders are in the beginning of their journey, they worry that they're like leaving money on the table if they exclude people, so to say. But honestly, I feel like it's the opposite. Like you're leaving money on the table if you don't like narrow down where your focus is.
100%. That was always our mentality. And people would always come to us being like, oh, this looks cool. But like for example, we had like a podcast network that was like, oh my God, I'd love to use Rella. This looks great, but like these are all the features that we need. And then we would like build these features and then it still wasn't good enough because like we didn't focus on podcast networks. So like they
Right.
would still use other tools, but they kept telling us, oh, but if it has this, then we'll use you. If we have this, then you'll use you. And then we were like building, building, building constantly. And then like we were just never good enough because then a social media manager would come in and be like, "Oh, if it had this, we would use you." And a talent manager, and then we would like build like we had this like Frankenstein of a product that was for like it just didn't work. Like there was half the product, half of the audience that we were targeting like wouldn't even use. Like it was just it
Yeah.
was it was not smart and it was our huge 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 mistake that like will kill your company if you do it.
Yeah, so a good reminder to really be intentional and like not just throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping that it sticks, but more so like having a purpose for doing what you're doing as you build a product.
Exactly. Like you need to have a customer in your head when you're building.
Absolutely. And Natalie, one question I'd love to ask you is to give a shout out to someone who's doing something cool in tech right now that you're really admiring. So it could be another founder, a VC, consultant, anyone is fair game.
Awesome. Well, I love the founder of Stan. So Jay, he's a friend of mine as well, but he is absolutely killing it with Stan. I admire how they are focusing on being a sustainable company. So he's actually focusing on like being a like profitable company and growing that way. He has amazing investors. He is just like I think such a good transparent CEO. I love watching his content as well. I think that they're doing like everything right and I really admire what they're doing. So his name's John. But if you guys follow him on like YouTube or anything like that, then you should check it out.
Amazing. I love that. And Natalie, this has been such a fun episode, and I've so enjoyed having you on Built and Backed. And I'd love to give you the opportunity to share with our listeners where they can find you online in case they'd like to connect.
Yeah, you can find me at Natalie Barbu across socials. I also have a new podcast that by the time this goes out will be released. It's called Just Grow With It. And I talk all about founder content. So like these topics that we talked about, like will be on that new podcast that will be released by this time. And then you can find Rella at getrella.com. And I can give you guys a coupon code. So if you want 10% off your purchase or your plan, you can use the code built and backed.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Natalie. And thank you again for being a guest on this week's episode of Built and Backed.
Thanks so much for having me.